Members, it's about time we start, and we've also formed a quorum. We'll now elect the chairman for the panel on financial affairs for 2015-16. According to our ROP 776, if a member is the chairman or deputy chairman of a relevant advisory body, he should not be the deputy or chairman of this panel. And under ROP 777, a member should not be the chairman or vice chairman of more than one panel. And I will now proceed to the election. According to House Rule number 22 and Appendix 4, a valid nomination must be made by a member orally and seconded by another member, and must be accepted by the member nominated concerned. I nominate Mr. Mleung Shing. Any seconder? Mr. Chen Kam Lam. Mr. Mleung Shing, do you accept the nomination? I do, Chairman. Any other nominations? Mr. Lee Chuk Yen? I nominate Mr. Kenneth Leung. Any seconder, please? Mr. James To seconds. Any other nominations? I have to ask. Mr. James To, do you... Oh, I beg your pardon, is Mr. Kenneth Leung. Do you accept the nomination? Chairman, I do. Any other nominations, please? If there are none, I declare that we proceed to a secret ballot. Staff, please hand out a ballot paper to each of the members present, and also a chop. After you have completed the ballot papers, I'll declare the balloting closed, and then our staff will collect all the ballot papers. Members are required to put the ballot papers into the box personally. According to our election rules, each member will be assigned a member according to the order of nomination. And please fix the seal next to the number of the member you prefer. Number 1 is Mr. Mleung Shing and Mr. Kenneth Leung. Number 2, since this is a secret ballot, please do not show your your ballot paper to anyone present, and you don't have to fold up the ballot paper.
未派完。幾多派咗17。工作人員呢係派出。
Our staff has handed out 17 ballot papers. If you have completed the ballot paper, the election is closed. Our staff will then collect the ballot papers. Members, please put your ballot papers into the box, and before you have done so, please don't leave your seats.
請提名黃良昇同梁繼昌啊。唔係提名嘅係黃定光同埋李卓人出嚟監票。但係都要講佢個名先，提名黃良昇同埋梁繼昌。請提名嘅兩個議員出嚟監票，即係黃定光同埋李卓人。好，現在我請呢係提名嘅。
Mr. Wong Ting Kwong and Mr. Lee Chuk Yan, please come up to supervise the counting of votes. I will wait for you to come up before we count the number of ballot papers collected. We've handed out 17 and received 17 ballot papers. Please start the counting of ballot papers, please. 1號 Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 2. Number 2. Number 1. Number 2. Number 2. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 2. Number 1. Number 1. The supervising members may return to their seats and now announce the results. All right, 12. Mr. Mleung Shing got 12 votes. Mr. Kenneth Leung, 5. I declare Mr. Mleung Shing elected chairman of the panel on home affairs for this year. All the ballot papers will be destroyed under the supervision of the secretary. I now invite Mr. Mleung Shing to chair the meeting. Thank you very much. We will now elect the deputy chairman for the panel. Members, nominations, please. Ms. Andrew Leung? Okay. Mr. Christopher Cheung, do you accept the nomination? Chairman, I do. Mr. Wong Ting Kwong, seconds. Mr. Christopher Cheung, do you accept the nomination? Any other nominations? Mr. James Teo? Mr. Kenneth Leung? Seconder, please. Mr. Lee Chuk-yen. Mr. Kenneth Leung, do you accept? I do, Chairman. Any other nominations? No? If there are no other nominations, we'll now proceed to a secret ballot. Will the staff please hand out the ballot papers and the chops to members present? Members, if you have completed the ballot papers, I declare the balloting closed. No more ballot papers can be distributed. Staff, please collect. All right, 18 ballot papers have been distributed. 18 ballot papers have been handed out. We'll now collect the ballot papers.
邊兩個監票？好。 我哋喺數票之前呢
Before we count the ballot papers, can I invite Mr. Andrew Leung and Mr. James Toh to come out to supervise the vote counting? Our staff has collected 18 ballot papers, the same number distributed. We'll now start the vote counting. Number one. Number one. Number one.
1號
Number one. Number two. Number two. Number one. Number two. Number one. Number two. Number two. Number one. Number one. Number one. Number one. Number one. Number two. Number two.
係18票冇咗。
18 votes. Thank you very much for your assistance. Please return to your seats. I now declare that Mr. Christopher Chung got 11 votes and Mr. Kenneth Leung 7. I declare Mr. Christopher Chung elected as the chairman of the panel for this year. Congratulations to you, Mr. Chung. All ballot papers will be destroyed under the supervision of the secretary. All right. The second item on the agenda is the schedule of meetings for the 2015-16 session. The regular meeting will follow our last year's arrangement. Will be the first Monday of the month at 10:45. If necessary, the meeting can start earlier if we have a longer agenda. Members, please refer to the schedule of meetings already tabled. In April and May, there was some rescheduling. Since they clash with public holidays. Mr. Sin Chung Kai, no, I have no comments on the scheduled meetings. I just want to speak on our items for discussion.
If there are no particular comments on the timetable, we'll go into item 3 of the agenda, and that is items for discussion at the next meeting. Please refer to the list of outstanding items for discussion, which is Appendix 5 to CB bracket 17/15 to 16. What do you think, members? Mr. Sin Chung Kai, Chairman. I think it's not just us, but other parties and affiliations are very concerned about intermediaries, which charge a very high introduction fee. And then they lend money to people in urgent need. The victims may borrow $100,000, but they end up would owe $2 million. I think this is happening quite often, and we have discussed this at our case conferences. But I think this is also a policy issue, and I believe the panel should take it up. Okay, money lending intermediaries. Okay, we will try to accommodate it as early as possible. We'll ask the administration to come and discuss it with us. Any other items that you'd like to propose, Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen? Chairman, we'd like to talk about the MPF. There are two major issues. One is offsetting with the severance payment, and two, MPF charges or fees. I have heard Mr. Tommy Cheung say that all 69 members object to MPF fees and charges. I think we should all work together to try to lower those to a more reasonable level. But perhaps the government should actually repossess the issue and set up a central provident fund. I have mentioned it at the manpower panel as well. Perhaps we can have a joint panel committee. I understand the item will be discussed by such a committee in January, but we are very hard-pressed for time if we want to legislate about the fees and charges. Okay, Mr. Jeffrey Lam. Chairman, there has been a lot of discussion about AIIB recently. What can AIIB do in Hong Kong, and in what aspect can Hong Kong play a role in AIIB? For example, can we be a wealth resources center? I hope the administration can come and let us know what they are doing about AIIB. I think it's a similar proposal to Mr. Kwok's. Okay, we can take it up at the appropriate time. Thank you. It has been recorded. Any other views? I think we have heard you. And now let us look at the arrangement for November. On the 2nd of November, there will be a meeting to take up at least two items. One, briefing on the work of the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, that is a regular item. And another one, proposed implementation of the second phase of the over-the-counter derivatives regulatory regime in Hong Kong. This has been fixed earlier on. If members agree that we have at least those two items, they will be taken up on the 2nd of November. The meeting will start at 10:45 until 12:55 on that day. I'd like also to tell members that the panel chair and the vice chair would meet with the secretary for FST to discuss items for discussion from December to July next year. If you have further views, please let us have those in writing after the meeting. We will look into those. Any other business? If there is nothing under AOB, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.